when I return to Sherlock Holmes's Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Hold it, Mr. Holmes. Let's go. Plain to see the room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table, the chairs, the lamp. Almost as if every item in the room was positioned on the ceiling before falling straight down to the floor. Every item on the ceiling. Okay, when is the next thing here? The key is here. Gravity. I think gravity could have been reversed in this very room. I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive of such a... Wow, it's going to be a good one. Could conceive of such an explanation. But the man himself admitted it was a scientific impossibility, so... Yes, you're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once. Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Mr. Sato. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he? While refusing to part with his dreams of an anti-gravity device. Yes, I suppose so. Well, let's see if examining this topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. All the furniture in here is very conspicuously upside down, certainly. Yes, it does immediately put you in mind of some strange quirk of gravity, I admit. Could it be that a mini whirlwind passed through here, do you think? I'm not sure that's much more plausible than Mr. Schultz's explanation. Oh dear, saying the first thing that comes into your head isn't the way forward here, it seems. So, okay. It's all inverted furniture. A large safe. Ah, look, Mrs. Sato. When everything seems to be upside down in here, this safe is conspicuously the right way up. Have you noticed? Yes, that's true. But look more closely at the safe's feet. Ah, that's a lot of very large bolts fixing it to the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you wanted to say, isn't it? I really put my foot in my mouth there. I certainly didn't say that. Well, can we... I mean, this is as far as I can go, so... Can we... I guess... Okay, there we go. Upright vase. Well, well, I wasn't expecting to find a pretty bunch of flowers in here, that's for sure. Oh, look at that. I know, that slender little vase looks like it's about to topple at any moment, but the flowers are thriving. Somehow it makes you think of the fragility of life, wouldn't you say? To be honest, Mr. Naruhodo, something else about it made a rather deeper impression on me. Well, there you go, then.
Take that!
The upright vase clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo, you've surpassed yourself by completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps. No one is trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes, trust me. As you rightly say, though, that it appears at first glance to be all the furniture in the room is upside down. This unassuming slender vase is standing keenly to attention. I suppose he would probably call it vase. And unlike the large safe, there is nothing affixing it to the floor. And it's the exception that breaks the rule. In short, much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all. My deepest sympathies for your loss. Poor Mr. Sholmes. But the show must go on, so let us continue with our deductions. Now that we know this contrivance is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility. You don't say. Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here. Which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that? Right, and naturally, there is an explanation. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, isn't he? I'm afraid the lure of an exciting scientific explanation is too strong. Well, there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all this furniture over. So whoever it was must have had a reason. I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all, though. Well, let's look around and see if the answer presents itself. It's not as though we didn't see it earlier. Look, there's something written on the underside of this armchair. Yes, safe 532582. Safe, as in safe and secure? As in secure lockable box, I think. Admittedly more likely. Well, there is a large safe bolted to the floor on the other side of the room, so yes. So you mean this number would let us open it? I wonder why it's written here, though. I wonder if there's a joke in here as well. So, the Japanese have these number codes that stand for words, and they're basically like shorthand for words. So, like, 39 means thank you, because 3 is san, and 9 is Q. So, sankyu sounds like English thank you. There's many number codes like that. I wonder if the developers have a joke in here as well. Just because there's other jokes in the names of the characters and whatnot. Anyway, let's present... Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination. Precisely. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you have had a very similar experience once, did you not? Yes, last year, when I bought a lottery ticket and noted the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book, just in case. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always make a written note of important information. Just keeping the ticket itself safe would be more sensible, I think. And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo? Especially since you'd have to, I imagine, turn the ticket in to the lottery to win the... When the day of the draw came round, I had forgotten which book I'd written the number in, and had to turn my room upside down to find it. That's it. For people are forgetful souls at heart, and always forget where they've noted things down. Not if you always note things in the same place. I actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I'd slipped the ticket into, so I had to Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo, but I believe I've proved my point now. Which is that a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room. Finding himself requiring access to the safe, the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he'd written it on the underside of a piece of furniture, but forgot which one, leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned all the furniture in here, in a desperate hurry, to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe. That would account for the crash bang womp we heard. Go on. Why is there such a... Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Yes. Indubitably, the great clue to get above and the footprints in the skylight and then... How is it possible there are footprints all the way up on the ceiling? The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the skylight. Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did those footprints get there? Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has just become even harder to solve. I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Oh, was so much simpler in those halcyon days when gravity could be reversed. It was minutes ago, and those halcyon days never existed in the first place. Well, I suppose we must simply put on our faith in Mr. Sholmes and observe the area in more detail. I just realized that these little asides that these two do are very similar to Manzai comedy, where you have the straight man, funny man duo, which is a very, I mean, it's like the most common form of comedians in Japan. But yeah, the little bantering back and forth that they do, I just realized, is probably very similar to that. Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into these situations in the first place. A balloon. This is a gas balloon, isn't it? It's tiny, but it does seem to be a real balloon. Yes, I think you're right. I think it's helium that's keeping it up. A green gas balloon. It looks like it's got footprints on the side. Why does that seem to ring a bell with me? If you can see, there are footprints on this balloon too, look. Oh yes, surely that's a clue, isn't it? Though what it tells us, I'm not sure. Yeah. There's the shoe. It's hard to believe, but there's a shoe up there, look. Oh yes, and there are more footprints on this little balloon too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up there and became lodged, do you think? If so, then judging from the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up several times. Why would anyone be throwing shoes up the ceiling, though? Oh dear, that's beyond me, I'm afraid. It looks like these are the only windows in the room. In other words, if you wanted to escape without using the door, these skylights would be the only way. Yes, that's true, but even so, and right next to the only escape route, we notice some telltale footprints. Nevertheless, as we've said many times now, gravity can't explain how they got there. But powerful springs in the soles of the man's shoes could. Have you been having strange dreams as well, like Mr. Sholmes? Well, the reason for the footprints on the ceiling is because of this shoe.
Take that!
The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe. And on closer inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight at all, but the balloon. But for what purpose? A green balloon. That seems somewhat familiar data. It was a piece of a green balloon's envelope that Mr. Naruhodo and Iris found at the scene. And inside the green balloon that Master Gotz claimed he saw above the stage when the incident occurred was the second birdcage, the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception. You mean to say... If we assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used on the day, there is a strong possibility something may be concealed inside it. I see. Something our absconder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway. But the balloon's out of reach. Hence why he resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. You'd think that turning over the furniture and climbing up on it would be far better. Most probably, Drebber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by assailing it with the shoe. However, his efforts were thwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of those lofty heights. Oh dear, we desperately need to examine that balloon. If only there were some way we could see inside. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution. Oh, the rope. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? And Mr. Sholmes has managed to bring the deduction back to the rope. Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up to the balloon and then pull it down to us on the ground. Which is much easier said than done, I feel. It could take us a very long time as well. True. Perhaps we need a more surefire method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we? The crossbow.
Take that!
Okay. To reach the intended destination, what better tool than the crossbow? That was found at the scene, in fact, and in all likelihood belongs to Mr. Drebber. If the man had only brought it away with him that day, he could have avoided losing a shoe at such a critical time as this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber has hidden inside that balloon? I mean, if it had gas in it. Ah, what the? A waxwork? Indeed it is, a waxwork head inside a metal mask. A mask that is shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock. So we can't see the face inside, that means. Just a moment, this is the head of a waxwork model? Does that mean... Oh, goodness. I see you've joined the dots, Miss Susato. Excellent. Ah, of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tuspel's model that you largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing. Indeed it was. But I believe Madame Tuspel's will now have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have now surmised, is the head of the infamous Professor. Yes. But why is it here? This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the Professor from Madame Tuspel's and returning it earlier today was none other than Enoch Drebber. This is incredible. Professor Hairbrain's case and the waxwork abduction they're inextricably linked by Enoch Drebber's workshop. Waxwork head has been entered in the court record. Okay. Well, great. Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows. Let's look at the head first. I can't find anything out of place. This lock does look very strong, doesn't it? There's definitely no way you could remove the mask yourself if it was put on you. What a terrible way to treat someone, even a convicted criminal. And now, it's starting to make me livid, actually. Mr. Naruhodo, please. I mean, just think about it. Imagine if you had an itch on your cheek all of a sudden. You'd be utterly helpless. Well, yes, that's true. But I'm not sure that warrants quite so much anger. Oh, right. Sorry. I would also like to point out that from the Manzai that I have in fact watched, in particular Downtown, very famous comedy duo tends to host a lot of them. They're not very funny. All that remains is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure. The architect? You mean Mr. Drebber? As it seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously, the man must still be here in the room. What? And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction. Enoch Drebber is right here, somewhere in this room. So, Mr. Naruhodo, will you do the honors? Yes, of course. Mr. Drebber's hiding place must be the cupboard. This looks to be a cupboard for cups and saucers and the like. Ah, an ingenious hiding place. Oh, is it? Well, when you say cupboard, you automatically think of cups and saucers, don't you? And the clever engineer knows that, so he knows you'd never look for him in there, because he's not crockery. Though, sadly, it does seem to be full of only crockery. If you need to hide, there's no better place than a wardrobe. I stand firmly by that. Ah, yes, you had some experience of that yourself a year ago, didn't you? We'll find him in there, mark my words. He'll be curled up in a ball, trembling and hungry. In fact, my own hand is trembling just thinking about making the discovery. Never mind, Mr. Naruhodo. He could be hiding somewhere else, you know. Yes, perhaps the large safe. We did, after all, hear a door. Actually, we heard that this has doors too. But the large safe. Look at all that mess in front of the safe. Yes, plans and accounting ledgers. Almost as if somebody was in a hurry to empty the contents of the safe, in fact. Well, there you go.
Take that!
Before we gained access to this back room, we heard noises from in here, which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at the point in time. He was, in fact, searching for the combination to his safe, and, pressed for time, made no attempt to right the furniture that he overturned in the process, from which we can deduce that his search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Trevor is, at this very moment, inside the safe. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle. Elementary. That was a very long one. Very long and involved one. So, Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide-and-seek, don't you? By opening the safe, you mean? What else? Let's see. The combination was 1, 4, 3, 5, 2, 5, 8, 1, 2, whatever. I knew that. Alright then, here it goes. You found me. This guy's weird. Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Trevor, I presume? Correct. You'd better start talking. You tricked Professor Hairbrain with that bogus machine you built. And you shall have to explain the theft of the waxwork from Madame Tuspel's as well. Whilst I would be delighted to answer your many questions. Personally, I would advise that you deactivate my little parcel first. Deactivate. Your parcel? I refer, of course, to the time bomb. I left it in a most prominent position. Oh. I see. Stunned silence. You're all gearing up to die with me, then? No. Mr. Sholmes, why, with only 7 seconds to spare? That was too close for comfort. I've got 1 foot in the grave already. Are you trying to help us to get a killer or get us killed? Mr. Sholmes's deductions can be completely life-altering, can't they? Well, my dear fellows, that was a close shave. The resemblance to an anti-gravity device is really quite startling, I must say. Anti-gravity devices don't exist. You know, I wouldn't push it, Mr. Sholmes. What happened? What on earth happened in here? You found me, haven't you? No need to screw me down any further. Everything in here is precisely what it seems. I'm not so sure about that. Yeah, well, we'll be giving it a thorough going over, don't you worry, Trevor. What fails to click with me is how you were able to locate my workshop. That I was not expecting. When I heard whistling from the other room, I knew it was time to bolt. Whistling. Ah, that would have been me. Oh. For some reason, I woke in fine fettle today. No words, just tightly squeezed chips. Clearly, I must have a screw loose, though, as I couldn't remember the combination for the safe, and as I couldn't have, yeah, there you go, put the commas in the right place, and another one loose, as I couldn't remember on which piece of furniture I'd written it down. We also found a rope over by the wall. Yes, I had hoped to exit through the skylight, but sadly, the rope was too short. So, I then set about searching for the combination code to open the safe. And burning the incriminating blueprints, don't forget. Regrettably, though, you failed to retrieve the head from the balloon among the rafters. And after that, you hid yourself inside the safe? Having first set this parcel ticking, I would like to point out that we had to use the combination to open the safe that he managed to lock himself inside of. That doesn't seem like a very good idea. Well, I had no intentions of being nailed by the police. Got a death wish, have you? Hiding right beside a ticking time bomb. Please, why do you suppose I chose to hide inside the safe? It's no ordinary safe. It's specially designed. A dynamite explosion wouldn't leave a scratch on it. So in fact the safe was the only safe place. Precisely. But once you'd climbed inside, you wouldn't have been able to get out again. I invite you to look more closely. The safe is fitted with a handle on the inside to allow the door to be unlocked from within. So it is. I had always intended to blow this place to smithers, in any case. I just wasn't expecting uninvited guests to come along and screw up my plans. Do you mean to say you were planning to blow us all up? No, that was unforeseen. What do you mean? And most people run, you see, when they see a ticking time bomb at their feet. I calculated the time required for retreat to a safe distance and set the device accordingly. But your seemingly endless discourse in here threw a spanner in the works. Is something wrong, Gregson? Do I have something on my face? Besides the usual eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. I don't know, sometimes you don't have the usual eyes on there. I think we have a fairly good idea of what's been going on here now. But what about the two incidents you've evidently been involved in recently? Professor Harebrain's instantaneous kinesis experiment at the Great Exhibition, and the waxwork model you stole, which this head belongs to. That's no ordinary head, you know. That's the head of the professor, clad in a mask with a lock so strong I'm unable to open it safely to reveal the killer's identity. I've been considering carrying it around as protection. That's an... Oh, you. What's going on here, Gregson? I'm sure you're aware that I have sole jurisdiction to investigate here. Well, yes, well, Dr. Scythe again. So the forensic investigation team are here. As you know full well, this engineer is a key witness. Why are you allowing this lawyer access to him? If Lord Strongheart knew this, you'd be finished. You lot, leave at once. My dear madam, there's no need for such a threatening tone, I assure you. After all, that's no way to greet an old acquaintance, is it, Dr. Scythe? Hello, Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes knows Dr. Scythe. If it's protecting the machine next door that's causing such a sour expression on your face, you are quite misguided. It's really nothing more than a shell. You get out. But of course, we'll show ourselves the door. I see you haven't softened at all. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? It would appear that our delightfully entertaining investigations have run their course for today. But Mr. Sholmes, let us leave this place in the doctor's capable hands. I said get out, now, all of you. Your presence here is not required either, Gregson. Understood. But I'll just say one thing before I head off. If it wasn't for this lawyer and his companions, we'd never have found this place, and the whole workshop would have been blown to bits. There was a time bomb sitting here that this lot disarmed. Inspector. What? Something giving you a chuckle, has it, Trevor? So sorry. Didn't mean to offend. You're quite right, of course. You did disarm the time bomb, didn't you? Yes, you did disarm that one. Hey, what are you... That one? You mean... Cool. That is such a fucking weird way to laugh. They all do that. Oh no, the machine. The machine with the evidence. It was an hour later that we heard the news of the enormous explosion that ripped through the experimentation stage of the Great Exhibition. Professor Harebrain's invention, and all its secrets, were blown away forever. To be continued. Well, sure, we'll keep this one short, I guess, why not? But are we going to end here? There we go. Save the progress. I will see you next time.